Hello there, Force of Will players, and welcome back to another video. Today what I'm going to be talking about is the recent tournament that Converging Wills had over the past weekend. I did not participate, I was busy preparing for my vacation, but it was an international event open. It was over Discord. I believe there were about 50-ish players, somewhere in that range. I'm not sure on the actual number, unfortunately. However, I did just want to go over it as it was a international event. We got to see kind of the best of the players that decided to play from each region. So, and then just a kind of one last kind of report before we end up getting Game of Gods Revolution, as well as a new ban list moving into a new kind of format for us and what we can expect. So I'm actually using Foul Library for this. They were gracious enough to compile the tournament report like they do for every event. If you're ever interested in looking at top 8 lists, different articles, there are links to Ruler School TCG, as well as my videos on my YouTube are also posted on here as well. Do feel free to go check them out. The link to the website will be in the description of this video, as well as all of my other videos. But anyway, the names for all of these lists used their Discord names. So some of the people I do know because I playtest with them and talk to them all the time. Some of them I do not know. So we'll just have to bear with that. But anyway, starting off, first place was a Kaguya list. I do not know this person. And some of the interesting things that we have seen kind of crop up from Kaguya, I believe it was in one of the last EU events, the inclusion of an IU. In order to kind of filter for value through IU's draw a card effect, right? I mean, you can also use it for lethal, but the main function of it is to draw for value, as that is the main thing Kaguya suffers from, is maintaining cards in advantage. You can also search the IU off of And War It Shall Be, so it just has a lot of impact. Setting the Stage of Providence is an interesting inclusion. It just kind of wins Cancel Wars, so it's probably very impactful in the mirror, as well as just other decks in general. Gradius, I'm not 100% sure what it's for. I'm assuming it's for the mirror to kill Hanzos, but again, I'm not 100% sure. I don't know what else you're really trying to shoot for 800 damage, outside of maybe like an Isis, in like order decks, or not order decks, in non-order decks, in My Less Mouge combos, like stuff like that. So I think it's just in for the like the mirror. So I think they teched pretty heavily for the mirror, if Gradius is for that. Gradius is for it, IU is for it through value, but IU is just also decent in other like grind matchups, and then setting the stage as well. Bastet is also interesting, gets you back Feasting, gets you back Lorites. Hanzos, they're almost always typically ordered, so you're not going to bounce them back with Bastet. But maybe Nyarlathoteps you could have back, things like that. The other interesting inclusion is the Dinner Time in the sideboard. Dinner Time, you can use that will to pump into Hanzo for his automatic effect when he is ordered, or his Revolution automatic effect. The interesting thing to do with that would be along the case of, let's say you're playing against like a mirror match, right? And you play your Hanzo, and you have maybe like 2 moons up and no other will. And your opponent has like 1 will up, right? So you go ahead and declare X equals 2 for Hanzo, and then your opponent attempts to Lorite Feasting, attempts to do whatever, to the Hanzo enter to stifle it, and you, setting the stage, you use your own Lorite, you use your own Feasting, cancel theirs. X would no longer, you wouldn't have enough to pay into 2, so it would technically count as a stifle, but with Dinner Time, you now can play that off of the other moon that's still up, go up to 3 will, produce 2 more moons, untap your 1 stone in this case, but you would have a bunch of extra will to work with moving into your opponent's turn, and they've used resources to try and stop you. So I think it's decently impactful in the mirror. I'm not exactly sure when they brought it in. It's also very strong against decks that can like kill the Hanzo on sight, that can't really interact with the automatic effect itself, so like a Stemmable Isle, things like that. It's just you get to pump more into the X value to get more moons quickly. Second place, also on Kaguya, also playing the IU that we talked about. They're also playing Prisia. Prisia is an interesting option, potentially to get Garyon to prevent your opponent from playing 1-drops. Garyon preventing 1-drops from being played, very impactful in the mirror. All of the good cards in Kaguya are all 1 mana. So Garyon just kind of hard stops the deck. And then if we even take a look at like the first place list, right? I think the only way that they can get rid of Garyon would be through playing a Nyarlathotep or playing a Teachings of the Moon if the Garyon attacks. So it's pretty impactful within that kind of sense. Other interesting tech option is 1 and Only. 1 and Only is very good against 2 specific decks. It's good against the mirror to wipe all moons, specifically if you're behind in moon count and you don't think you'll be able to catch up. And then 2, it's very good against Magical Dragon, or Draco Witch, or whatever it's being called. The Mylest Mouge Magical Dragon deck kills all the Magical Dragons, right? And then they don't like recycle the deck, so they don't really have anything. So interesting tech option there. Library of Lycion. Not entirely sure what it's for. I mean, it's just another value card, right? So I use a value card, Library of Lycion's a value card, so they just probably brought it in when they wanted a more value-centric matchup. Elvish Bowman, Heavenly Gust are both Addition Destructions. We've seen them in Kaguya lists before. Third Boon has kind of fallen off, but it is good at canceling like 3 mana lower cost cards, right? So like a lot of the like order good cards, because like every order ruler has their 3 attributes, right? And then they all have a chant that is those 3 attributes. So like in the case of like Kaguya, it's Teachings of the Moon. In the case of like Shiva, it's Rigveda. So Third Boon is very good at countering stuff like that. Third Boon can also counter Magical Dragon, other things like that along those lines. Third place, Quantum Physics. This is Stephen Holsheiser, the man who put Draco Witch kind of on the map in the American Wanderer GP we had back in April, I think. His list plays the Witch of the Fallen Kingdoms, which we didn't see in the EU versions of the list. It's just to get Pumpkin Witch in order to just win the game from there. The one in the sideboard, it's actually interesting math. If your opponent's at 4,000 life, right? 2 Magical Dragons, a Pumpkin Witch, and a Witch of the Fallen Kingdom is 100 off of lethal. So in order to actually lethal your opponent with only 2 dragons, you do need a second Witch of the Fallen Kingdom in the sideboard in order to go Witch into Pumpkin Witch, right? So so I believe that is why he kept 1 on the board. It is just an interesting math thing there. But the odds that you get 3 or 4 of them are pretty likely, especially with the 2 dragons calls and how much draw power the deck just raw has. His only real interaction is Fair's spell, and then because he's 6 sages, he also gets Welser, and then also Lorite. He opted to not play Garyons over these other ones, which are better serviced for combo decks, so I'm not surprised. Demon of Explosions, it's an interesting tech option for Belial, as well as Magic of Trust and Love is a good tech option for Belial. Just extra damage to ping in when they attempt to Goddard in order to try and kill them. Black Moonrays for Hanzo, Shackles is also for the Belial decks. Dante Belial. So this is actually an interesting list. It's very much an Astema Belial list, but it focuses more, so like there's only 2 final battles, there's only 1 whispers, so it's less hard on the pay life cards, so you can side them out should you want to go into a Stemma Belial. However, they opted for this variant because I think Dante Belial is better suited, has a better like overall win rate against most other decks, whereas a Stemma Belial is very good against specific decks. So I think they opted to swap into a Stemma Belial should they see and like face those specific decks, and then opted to cut down count on the like combo for life loss and things like that in order to functionally swap like easily, right? Because if we take a look, it's a bunch more like kill spells over here. Gradius, Prideful Rule, right? That's 6 cards that would all go in. Which of the Fallen Kingdoms could potentially go in if you needed more of them. But yeah, so That is just what I think was happening here. Otherwise, it's your standard just Dante Belial list. They're also playing the one of Flame of Outer World, but I think that's more in the deck for when they swap into a Stemma in order to kill something off of the search. I guess they could do it off of the Dante search, but that's a 3-will sync, so I'm not. And normally you Judgment Dante earlier. 5th place was also Kaguya. They dropped their Resonator count significantly, or at least their like tech Resonator count. Like there's no IU, there's no Garyons, there's none of that. We do see it in the sideboard. They're playing Horn. Horn's interesting. Horn kind of fell off because we don't have a lot of graveyard-centric decks. If we ever do get one, Horn just kind of helps to counter it. The biggest thing with Horn is just how it interacts with Tree 2. Because, I mean, you don't sideboard it in for Tree 2, right? But, like, that interaction is just, like, Horn's biggest strength right now, which is kind of funny, considering how long that card had been banned for. Astema Belial, DMO 7-3 here, Mr. Ruler School TCG himself, bringing it home. He did the opposite, right, of the other deck above. We have the Dante Belial Inferno shenanigans in the sideboard with Astema Belial control mained. Parries, I'm pretty sure Parry is in the main for Kaguya Enters the Game of Gods. I can't really think of another specific chant you would be trying to aim for with Parry. Maybe Magic of Trust and Love. But it also can like help stop like Demon of Explosions, other things like that. Like there are options for parry, but I think the main reason it's in the deck is for Kaguya Enters the Game of Gods. I guess it can also stop Firestorm off of Violet too. Interesting options. Dark Alice is kind of unique. We haven't really seen a whole lot of it. It's just decent filter. It's also graveyard protection should you need that for some reason. Dance of Spirits is pretty good just to combo off and kill your opponent, prevent them from interacting with you. It also stops them playing for a turn. So if you're on the more control list, you can use it more aggressively to prevent them from playing their turn. If you don't think you can deal with them, get to higher mana pools and then start actually playing stuff. Necronomicon Barrier, very good against the Magical Dragon deck. Can also be impactful against Kaguya, depending on the state of the game. It can't stop, like, Hanzo or whatever they order, right? But, like, if they do that, it stops all their Lorites, it stops their Feaths if they have something ordered already. So it can just work as a kind of blanket effect that Darkness doesn't normally have access to, right? Again, also very good against Magical Dragon decks. Battle comes to an end. Not entirely sure what he was trying to hit with this card. Could be Infernos. Could be Hanzos, could be Feaths. Not entirely sure. But who knows? So we got that. It's just like, again, like counter spells have kind of fallen off, which means higher CMC cards are just more easily resolvable. Because it's just like, right, Fair Spell, Garyon, Lorite are like the main three, and then other decks have other ones. So like there's Feasting, things like that, right? So you might have just been trying to use it to hit the Kaguya matchup. Otherwise, Revealing the Power of Salvation is for the Mirror, or Dante Belial Inferno combo, not the Mirror necessarily. And yeah, the rest looks pretty standard, I think. Nothing crazy. Light of Raisin Revive is interesting. It's like a removal tool or a resurrection tool. Kai's Palace is Kyron Lucas, who got first place at a New Frontiers event with Violet. This improved Burning Robot is a nice tech. Again, 2 CMC and higher cards are the easiest cards to actually resolve in the game currently. Especially at sorcery speed, 2 CMC or higher sorcery speed cards. Enter effects are less easy to resolve, but improved Burning Robot can resolve fairly easily and then just win games off the back of it, resolving with all of the atoms engraved. Spinning Aqua Soul is neat for potentially getting back Atomic Turb. You can get back Loki's Insight if you want. Firestorms after you board them in, so on and so forth. Fair spells, right? There are just other options for it. You can also get back a Heart-to-Heart Talk should it get put back into your grave via an improved Healing Robot, or if you like cast the Maria Bella and it dies or something like that. It's just a way to get it back into your hand in order to replay it, which is a neat little option. Academy Guards for combo decks, and then everything else looks pretty standard. Calamity Shield for the Mirror. And then Exorcist Mage for... What's Exorcist Mage for? Is Exorcist Mage good in this format? I don't think it is. I don't think people are really cheating cards into play. I think they're all casting their resonators. I guess it'd be like the Pumpkin Witch, like Fallen Kingdom, Witch of the Fallen Kingdom stuff. So, but yeah. So. And then 8th place, Mitakun, or Minha, the Ragnarok Stan himself. I could potentially try and understand the deck. I mean, there's some fairly obvious things, right? So like Ragnarok's ability to produce 2 free will at the start of the game for 0, so you just start at 3 will, is good, right? It lets you potentially, like the lines that you can play with, like the free will. You can't really Scheherazade on turn 1 unless you also have Energize, but then you don't get the Stone Call, so that's not the greatest. You could Wind Servant into Scheherazade, but again, like tapping your ruler and not getting the Stone Call is probably not what you're trying to do. Magna's Guardian Beasting on 1 gets you, like, you can get Wind Servant, Water Servant, that's produce 3, draw 3, so you're just back to the same point, but you have 3 more cards in your hand, and you've filtered out 3 cards out of your deck. You can dump stuff with Mikage Rhea. Is there a resurrection card in here? This is kind of the fun part about these lists, about like Ragnarok and stuff like this, is you get to look for these weird, dumb combos that you don't normally find. I guess Mikage Rhea can dump Part, but what is Part getting? Ultra Magic Stone Golem Garyon. So you'd have to have another dump in order to get like Garyon turn 1, but I'm sure there's a way to do it. I'm almost positive Min could come up with a way to do it. 7 Deadly Sins also just puts Garyon into play off of the 3 will that you would produce. Cruz Ballesta, or what is this one? It's the addition. Magic Stone Research Institute just gets you like a free stone, right? You produce the 2 will, you just play it, you get the stone because you don't need to sack 1, you get another stone. And then you're at 2 will, right? You're not playing 3, but you do get to, you're ramping a stone. Dinner Time, more ramp and stuff like that. Dreams of Juliet is a blink card. That's its like primary function. It also destroys additions, but its main function is used to blink something. Which blinking is you remove something from the game and then it immediately comes back into play. So it's just like re-trigger enter effects. So you could like blink Wind Servant and you would go up a mana. You could blink Water Servant, draw 3 more cards. You could probably do some kind of combo lines with like Adam Brawley or like Rezard and things like that. Because I think at a certain point, Selective Decap lets you sack off stuff. I think at a certain point you can just go infinite with Brawley Decap. I don't know if you can do it like turn 1, but you definitely can eventually do it. There's probably something with Priscia. That's the thing with this deck. I'm too smooth brained to try and learn all the different lines. I mean, I know you watch my videos. I know you've commented about Ragnarok in the past, so if you want to delve into any of your ideology behind what's in here, anything I didn't go over or whatever, feel free to in the comments. You are the Ragnarok player himself. This is the first showing I think Ragnarok has had, like at least at a top level in any event. There might have been ones when Ragnarok was first released or with like MSW, but I wasn't super active in the community at the time, partially due to COVID, and there weren't too many events. So I'm not super up to date if there were potentially any Ragnaroks that were topping back then. But this is the most recent one in recent memories. Again, Min played a lot of Ragnarok. He would know the deck the best. We see a lot of the tech options we've seen in like other decks, right? Dawn of the Earth to get rid of moons. One and only gets rid of moons and Magical Dragon. Castle of Carlane is interesting. I mean, gets you Ultra Magic Stone or Garyon or Kusanagi Motoko. Otherwise, we've gone over like the rest of these. Attendant of Asmodeus. Attendant of Asmodeus is actually... It is a very good addition destruction card. also due to how few editions are actually in the format currently. And in the Wanderer format, New Frontiers has Lycion and other things, right? Attendant actually gets a lot better with the next set, because I'm pretty sure you play 4 of it in Athenia, due to the nature of it removing cards from the top of your deck in order to go mana up. So we'll see. But anyway, this was the top 8 from the event. I believe this is the last event, so I think this is kind of like the throw-off event for this format. Again, we're going to get a new set. We're going to get 4 new rulers, new cards that can work with a bunch of different stuff because of the new mechanic of Union 7, as opposed to stuff being tied behind Revolution. And then also, we should be getting a ban list soon, relatively. So the ban list will also cause different decks to potentially fall off, or other ones to pop up. But anyway, thank you all so much for watching this last tournament report of this event season. The next real event will be in the next format. It will be, the next NA event. I'm not entirely sure on EU events or other regions events, but the next NA event will be in July. It'll be an in-person event in Minnesota. I will be judging that event, so do if you have any questions about any of it leading up to it, feel free to reach out, or I will see you there. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching. Hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.